Ricky, you know that graphic that says "Thank you, fans" that the Reds send out after the ending of every single season?
Yeah,
Well, our guy Greg Kuffner, Reds Daily 4, just posted it after the Marlins loss. So let's talk about it.
let's talk about it.
Welcome to Red Hot Reds, the Cincinnati Reds podcast. I feel like at this point of the season last year, Ricky, was the Athletics series that we end up playing taps after they had brutal losses to the Sacramento A's or whatever they call themselves nowadays. But that was 2025, and we had some light at the end of the tunnel in 2025. Obviously, we talked about Greg posting the thank you fans graphic already on August 16th. Ricky, are you emotionally there where Greg's at?
I'm pretty close. After Saturday, when you have, it was a back and forth game all game long, and the bullpen collapses late, and Tito makes the decision to bring in Sam Moll, which I get it. There wasn't a pitcher available. Brock Burke pitched in like 2 out of the last 3 games. Um, there just wasn't anybody available, and then they traded away Ferguson. And you have to go with Moll, I guess, to face the lefty, which they ended up pinch hitting for, and and then it ended up walking the guy anyway. I'm there.
Yeah. The Brock Burke thing, like last year, he was throwing out Tony Santillan and Mr. Scott Barlow every day. It felt like the Brock Burke thing we can get into. Obviously, this is obviously it was a make or break game this week. We could have had a winning week, winning 2 back-to-back series against potentially playoff teams. Obviously, the White Sox are already leading their division, but the Marlins are pretty close. I think they're 2 games out of a wild card. But anyway, this felt like this could have been a really positive show today, but it ends up being horribly, horribly negative because of the last 2 losses, I feel. And as you can see on the graphic, as Ricky put up, the May bullpen is back. I don't think that's a question. I think we're just putting that out there because maybe we hopefully don't have a terrible next 2 weeks of August because, Ricky's talked about it in this show. It's a gauntlet starting now. We got 5 games against the Cardinals, and the Arizona Diamondbacks are in playoff position right now. The gauntlet starts now. September, we talked about being terrible with all these playoff teams and all these great organizations that are going to probably we don't even talk. We got to play the Braves in September. Goodness. Anyway, but we're not even there yet. We got to get through August. And if it's going to be like this, Ricky, with a bullpen meltdown back-to-back games against a good Marlins team, I'm not going to, say they're terrible. This is a team that had a really good June and then also had a 12-game losing streak out the break of the All-Star. So they're not a great team by any means, but like to lose the series this way, to lose it after a good Lodolo start, I don't know where to go from here. It is quite a sad show that we're going to probably end up talking about a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't good. And you start off promising, you take 2 out of 3 in Chicago, and they were all both wins were 1-run games, and then Friday's win was a 1-run game. And then you give up 8 runs and 7 runs respectively on Saturday and Sunday. And and you look at that and you go, oh, it must have been just out of control the entire game. But when you look at at Saturday, it was the 8th inning when Miami scored 4 runs off of Antone technically, but Moll really being the one that throws a middle fastball on I think a 1-2 count, 3. Yeah, it just wasn't a good pitch. And today, Sunday, kind of the same situation with Antone. Hopefully he's healthy, and that's just it. He's just struggling with command at the moment, throwing the most innings he's thrown in years. So maybe he's just tired, which I can excuse from him because he's been effective all year long. It's just the other guys, I wouldn't have even minded seeing Pierce Johnson in that situation yesterday with when they went to Moll. You're paying a guy $10.5 million, if not what, 4? Is it 10.5? It might be more
for Pierce Johnson.
Yeah, 8.5, 10.5. It's somewhere in that ballpark. Just one of the higher paid relievers for the Reds. You would kind of wish to trust him in that situation more than a guy who has a 7 ERA in his last 7 games.
I got him down here at $6.5 million.
Okay, so still, he's still one of the higher paid relievers in the Reds bullpen. It's just unfortunate, like it is just there's not many good pitchers in the bullpen this year, and that's kind of been the story most of the season outside of April and the end of July going into August. So I really don't know what else to say about it other than, if there is a season next year, there needs to be like a wholesale change with the bullpen. And there's really only 3 guys I'm keeping that are on this team this year.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. This team has won a lot of series after the All-Star break. And it feels like, though, very April 2026, right? Like we're this high wire act of winning the slightest of margin, winning 1-0, winning 9-8 against the White Sox, but then also just completely falling apart and getting killed by a Marlins team. It just giving up all these runs late, or giving up all these runs that make the Reds run differential so horrendous to look at. It hurts my eyes to think of this team is kind of trying to climb out of the NL Central basement, but they're not a good team. We can't, honestly tell you that the Cincinnati Reds team is a good team. Do they win games? Do they have clutch performances? Do they have a fantastic starter in Chase Burns? Get them the 1-0 win on a Friday night that is the highlight of the week, basically, and all the rest of it is just nail biting. Not sure if this team's going to put up enough offense on any given night. Not sure which reliever is going to have it and which one's not going to have it on any given night. It's kind of a horrible existence that we're in. And the chatter on X, the Everything app, is like, why didn't this team sell? This is not a playoff team in its current incarnation, in the way that they go about business at the moment. Do they have some pieces? Yes. Do they have some starters that are injured and coming back from injury, like Lodolo having a nice start? Yes. But it's not a complete team. This is not a team that you go up against the Braves or the Dodgers or even the Cubs and the Brewers in our own division and go like, yeah, we can beat this team in a series with the guys we got.
Yeah, I guess first off, happy birthday, Tyler Stevenson, hitting a home run on his birthday. It's always cool. Also, shout out one of the 3 guys I would keep going in the next year's bullpen, Julian Garcia, 2 innings today, a hit, 4 strikeouts. He's been awesome, and I'm glad to see him having the success he's having with the journey he's had to get here. And, I'll say this, I'm glad they didn't trade Stevenson because I'm kind of on the bandwagon now of extending him short term. You can get like a 3-year deal done or something just to kind of bridge Duno coming up. And then even 3 years from now, he'll be the same age as when the Reds signed Trevino last year. So he could be that Trevino teacher to Duno and then eventually Herman Murillo also.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't mind. Hopefully, if they could get a deal done. I mean, his ABS ability is just one that should be really talked about. And then Lodolo today, I think the Reds probably trade him if he was healthy at the deadline. Had he had not had 2 IL stints for the same issue with blisters. But 5 innings today, 3 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Just a nice building block game from him. He did have some struggles with his breaking ball, which he is working on a new grip with that. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, just it's unfortunate to see Antone go through these struggles, but his innings are getting up there. And then Marinaccio, who was the waiver claim after the deadline or at the deadline from the Pirates, just having a second consecutive blow up outing where he pitched an inning and a third. So, his first outing for the Reds, which was in Washington, his first inning went pretty well. And I'm like, all right, you did your job. Let's get him out of there. And then they bring him out for a second inning and it just puts the ball game away. And, it was a 1-run game going into the 9th. And then Miami obviously scores 5 to make it 7-1. I don't know how you feel. Just I'm kind of there with Reds Daily 4, Greg. I think I'm checked out at this point. They should have sold, and I get it. Steer was a trade piece, injured. Lodolo was a trade piece, injured. You don't really have a reliable backup catcher. I prefer Trevino as the backup catcher with Stevenson as the primary catcher. So I understand not making that move to a degree. If Duno was in AAA right now and healthy, I think you could stomach the moving Stevenson because Trevino is a teacher as a catcher. So I wouldn't mind that. It's just, Hunter Green being out is unfortunate too. And then, Abbott's having his struggles this year. Singer has just been consistently average.
Yeah.
He really got out the gates bad, but his recent, 10 starts or so is looking like 2025 Singer. So that's okay. I don't agree with what they said at the deadline though about wanting to extend him a qualifying offer. You're looking at $23 million for a best 5th starter. I don't like that.
Yeah, that's a good point in the Singer stuff because everyone did not enjoy the Nick Martinez experience on the qualified offer. Obviously, he deserved it because he was one of the better pitchers in 2024, was it? And then got the qualifying offer last year. Thank you for your services. Nick Martinez now an all-star in Tampa Bay, but that also doesn't help with the wound of Nick Martinez qualifying offer being the highest paid player on the team by far.
And I'll say this too, that is on brand for Nick Kroll to give mid players at best record money. I mean, like Jamer Candelario, Mike Moustakas, Frankie Montas, potentially Brady Singer. You think of all that money that they could have not spent, and they could have just added serviceable talent that maybe isn't everyday starter type players, but if you have enough decent players, you can rotate them in and out, and you save that money to extend an Ellie De La Cruz. You have that money to extend a Sal Stewart. You have that money to potentially next year extend Alfredo Duno before he gets to the major leagues. Do what the Brewers did with Jackson Chourio.
Yeah.
It's just boneheaded decision after boneheaded decision with the front office. And, I'm not taking blame away from Tito.
Yeah.
But what is he supposed to do when every player he has to turn to just isn't good?
Yeah. Also, didn't we learn from the picking up Pirates relievers with Marinaccio? Did not everyone remember the Kyle Nicholas experience? We traded away our 19 prospect, Ethan O'Donnell, right? I think I got the right one. When we traded, someone was traded for Dane Myers.
Tyler Callahan.
Sorry, Ethan O'Donnell was Dane Myers.
Yes.
But anyway, Yeah, we didn't learn from picking up Pirates relievers. This feels like, it's same old from the Reds in that. But anyway, he's the GOAT this week of just blowing leads and not having it. And then we also compound that with Sam Moll, who everyone's been talking about has been struggling. I don't, again, understand. I get you don't want to completely kill Burke, but you got to make a better decision there. Sam Moll is not it. He's not having all-star level season. So this whole series just in a turn of a couple of decisions went from we could have, won this series maybe if the offense shows up a little bit more today, because like we did a typical Sunday getaway day, 4 hits, 2 of them from Jose Trevino, 3 of them overall from catchers because Tyler Stevenson had a home run pinch hitting, and we run out TJ Friedl, Ke'Bryan Hayes, and at least Matt McClain has been semi-serviceable. He hit a home run yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago. So like, I don't know, what are we doing here, man? Like it feels like the front office and the organization's outlook is we're close. We're right there. We don't need to sell Singer. We don't need to sell Stevenson. We don't need to, try to beef up our farm system, which we barely did by getting Juan Brito and like international cap money. And that's about it. I don't get it. I don't see the vision. I see a team that is not good, that can win and squeak out if you pitch perfectly with Chase Burns and Brock Burke and Pagan. But then any other situation, you're just taking a chance that you're going to be in this game. The offense just can't seem to help out their pitching. The only time they did this week was in the White Sox series, and they nearly gave the game back, to the White Sox late on, and it had, nail biter on the getaway game. I just don't get this team, man. This team, I can't honestly sit here, and I can't believe Krall and Meador can honestly sit there, look people in the eyes on their awkward press conferences after the trade deadline and say, we are going to be competitive. We're not selling. Good grief. Like, come on. You got to be joking me.
Yeah, I mean, TJ Friedl has 6 hits since June 1st.
And none after the All-Star break, right? That's the stat.
He's 0 for his last, I want to
something.
say 26. Yeah, it's not good. It's just not good at all.
They're either letting him hang by his own rope and they're just going to DFA him to be merciful at the end of this year, because they can't honestly, again, like Tito can't go up to a press conference and say, I think TJ Friedl gives us the best chance to win today. Did he have good numbers against Yuri Perez? But that was a different TJ Friedl. And I think there was a stat that Reds Daily, Greg Kuffner, put out there that the Reds are like near the bottom against pitchers that have velocity of 98 and above. And what did they do today against Yuri Perez? Absolutely nothing. They got their 1 run off a reliever, right? With Stevenson.
Yeah.
Just it's I guess it's the flaw of having the extra wild card spots, right? If we don't have those 3 wild card spots, this Reds team is dead after the All-Star break. Like, there's no point to playing these games, or at least trying to win all these games. But now we're stuck.
You could have looked at the September schedule and just said the season was done. I mean, you play the Brewers, Dodgers in 4 straight series, and obviously 2 were at home, 2 were on the road, and that's not counting Atlanta. That's not counting Toronto, which hasn't been great this year, but they're still a talented team. And it's unfortunate that it seems like every season that the team performs at the trade deadline to convince the front office that they're good enough to get to the playoffs. And then as soon as it passes, they go back to who they were the entire season. And it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of unfortunate that, the injury they weren't anticipating Hunter Green getting shut down as well this late and after the trade deadline and whatnot. So like, if he was still on the shelf, maybe, and was looking like he was going to get shut down for the season before the trade deadline, maybe things go away. But like, I don't know, man. You can't really put lipstick on this pig much longer and keep telling the Reds fans to keep supporting this team and keep coming out to a ball club that just doesn't show up some days. It's just so weird. I don't know why, like, 2025 felt just like a different energy. Like, they didn't quit on these getaway days. They didn't quit, to get swept. And they've shown flashes of that this season, but not consistently enough to be like, yeah, this is going to be like the identity of this team. What is the identity of this team, Ricky? Like, is it just the Ellie and Sal show, and then when Chase Burns is pitching, that's it? Like, is that our identity?
I mean, yeah, effectively, yeah. I mean, we're a team that can't hit outside of Sal and Ellie. We're a team that can't drive in runs outside of Sal because Ellie's the one getting on base ahead of Sal. And we're a team that can't steal bases outside of Ellie. We're a team that has good defense at second base and, third base. We have no power in the outfield outside of Spencer Steer when he's healthy. We have one amazing pitcher who, knock on wood, has been healthy this season. And we have a really bad bullpen outside of like 3, with 2 really being the majority of the season when they've been on the active roster.
Yeah. I'm starting to think the reason why Chase Burns isn't getting Cy Young love is that they know the Reds are going to shut him down in September. So he's not going to be able to amass enough numbers or have enough starts or have enough quality innings or whatever the thing is that will end up disqualifying him or what have you. I don't know. It's a mess because, like I said, the Marlins were there for the taking at times, right? Like, they weren't. I mean, obviously they got to our bullpen, so credit to them for scoring those runs late on and having, I guess, the mentality of never giving up against us, because I felt like the Saturday game was kind of the tipping point in terms of, like, if they hold that lead, they keep them, 5-4 or whatever it was, or 4-3, it ends up solidifying, again, another winning week. It gives them another series 1 against a potential playoff team, a team ahead of them in the standings, going into this gauntlet of the last 6-7 weeks of the season. So, like, it just opportunities lost again. It feels like that's a story old as time for this baseball club, and not just this season. You know what I mean? Like, since the 2010s when we had 90 plus win teams, right? That stat you always cite, Ricky. The last time we had a 90 win season was 2014, right? Or 2013?
2013, yeah.
So,
and they had 2 legitimate contending teams in 2010 and 2012. And we saw 2011 they went all in the offseason to 2012, and it worked. I mean, did it hurt the farm system? Yeah. Being Yonder Alonso and Yasmani Grandal for Matt Latos, but they got to the playoffs. They were one of the best teams in Major League Baseball that year. And, they just couldn't take game 3 for whatever reason. And that late game collapse in game 5 where, the famous Buster Posey grand slam that just ended everybody's hopes. And that was the last time we've ever had a legitimate shot of taking a series in the playoffs, because, as we've seen over the last 12 years, they get to the playoffs in 2020, don't score a run. They get to the playoffs in 2020, whatever, 5. Just same old. Granted, they played the Braves, who I think were they the eventual champions that year in 2020, or was it 21 they were the champions?
21 was the Braves.
Was the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
But the Braves were a very good team that year. They were on the ascending. But the Reds had arguably the best pitching staff that year in all of baseball, with the eventual Cy Young winner. Yeah, I mean, it's just sad looking back because, we all go back to 2005 when we got that letter from Bob Castellini, where we're going to build this team to be a perennial champion. We're going to do everything we can to get a championship back to Cincinnati. And it feels like the only time they went all in was in 2011 offseason going into 2012. And you could make the argument 2019 with the offseason of 2018 when they signed Moustakas, Castellanos, Shogo Akiyama, and they traded for Trevor Bauer. They signed, or they signed Sonny Gray, or did they trade for Sonny Gray? I can't remember, but they acquired Sonny Gray, and they had a formidable front line rotation and 3 legitimate pitchers. And you had an aging Joey Votto who was still performing before his surgery. You had Castellanos, who was like a near 100 RBI guy. And had they hit on Moustakas, maybe they make the playoffs and make a run. But listen to us talking about the old team because there's nothing to talk about with the new team. It's just, it's unfortunate that we're wasting Ellie De La Cruz's career here, that he's already in year 4 or year 3, full season, year 3. And we're wasting South Stewart, who was just in his rookie year, who's probably going to break the Reds' RBI record. And there's just nothing else to talk about. Everybody else just stinks.
Pretty much, yeah. It's very much a very not well constructed team. I can't imagine that the high watermark of this franchise with the Tito era is going to be 83 wins. That feels sad to hear out loud. Like, it feels like we should, I don't know. Like, if we go in the rebuild mode, then we're probably going to again say that 83 is the top. Like, that's the best we can do. And I don't understand how this team is taking steps back when we added in the offseason. Yeah, did we make mistakes in maybe adding the wrong relievers when they were trying to, rebuild the bullpen because of, Big Tone pitched 80-plus games. Scott Barlow pitched 80-plus games. And, Emilio Pagan gets re-signed, and maybe that's a mistake because he ends up having a player option, and he signs his buddy Pierce Johnson, who has not been worth the $6.5 million that he's been. And then you also have, the situation where, again, Hunter Green's hurt again. I don't know. It's like, if there was something, it's the Murphy's Law thing of, like, if something is going to go wrong, it's going to, and that's what it felt like for 2026, is that we're in this special place of frustration that we can't get out of. We can't move this organization forward in any way. The times we do is when we have a out of nowhere 2023 winning 82 games, 20 more games than they did the previous season. So what do they do the next year? Take steps back. Then we go forward with 83 wins and sneak in the playoffs. And what do they do the next year? Take steps back. I don't know. I know it's not always going to be linear progress, but it feels like this organization doesn't have the right building blocks in place to make a foundation that's solid enough, like a Braves organization, like a Tampa Bay Rays organization. You know what I mean? Like, they feel like they just don't have the right. And we're going to point upwards to the front office. Like, they don't have the right people making the right decisions, because you can't tell me that this team doesn't have talent. It's way more talented. The 2026 roster was way more talented than 25, but we're losing more games. Make that make sense.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because this kind of crossed my mind as you were going on about the front office. If the Reds were to make a front office move and do the unthinkable, move on from Nick Krall, move on from Brad Meador, move on from whoever is in chain of command, and go outside of the organization, do you think Tito gets to see the rebuild, or does a new front office move on from Tito? Because there has been issues with Tito. I think we can all agree. more so from the analytical side that the stat nerds like to look at. I'm not typically the stat nerd guy. That I think there is merit to some of it.
Yeah.
But I don't like looking at players that like a Will Benson that has a high strikeout rate, but you look at the hard hit percentage and you look at Babbitt and you go, okay, he's just getting unlucky. But I think if you have a guy that doesn't hit the ball as hard, maybe that ball bleeds. A bloop single is better than a 115 mile per hour line out. And I don't know. I just feel like obviously this is the healthiest Tito has in recent years for his sake. He is getting older, and let's just say it happens this offseason. They get the CBA done, and there's a full season next year, and the new front office comes in, and they just dismantle the whole team outside of I would even say they would probably even try to trade Ellie unless they can get an extension with the new front office. I doubt that happens just because of ownership financially, but let's just say they can figure something out. Maybe the new CBA makes it happen. And they sell everything they can, and we see kind of a Chicago White Sox situation where you lose 100 games, 110 games, back-to-back seasons, but you can acquire potentially a first overall pick in that, and let's just say they extend a qualifying offer to Brady Singer and he declines and goes sign somewhere else long-term, and they get a comp pick from that. And they sign some great draft pick with that pick, and he turns out to be a Joey Votto type, late second round talent that turns into a future Hall of Famer. Would that new front office look at Tito and be like, you lost 100 straight games, 2 straight years, but you're also one of the best managers of all time, and there's a history to how he's been as a manager the majority of his career. If you exclude Philadelphia and you exclude this season at Cincinnati, he's one of the best managers of all time. Like, do they let him see a rebuild, or do they try to hire a new manager from the outside after that too?
To answer quickly, I think no. I don't think he sees the rebuild. I think he's got a 3-year deal, right? 25, 26, and presumably 2027.
Yeah, I think there's a club option for 28.
Okay. If you were thinking this through in the timeline of, Bob Castellini, because he's not getting any younger as the owner of this franchise. Obviously, he turned over the reins to Phil, but we all know how we feel about Phil. But you would think, being that his dad is in, advanced age, that they're not going to just waste years of Ellie's prime and Sal rookie of the year potential year, franchise record breaking RBIs for a rookie and all that type of season. You don't want to waste that. Or you should think of it the other way of like 2027 might be a 2020 shortened season at the best case scenario, right? Obviously, the CBA is a if, not a when that's going to get concluded, because it may just cancel the whole season, which we can have lots of discussions about that this offseason. I think he stays with the last year of that 27 season, probably shortened, 60, 80 games, whatever it may be, and rides it out into the sunset. Maybe they go all in. Maybe they do the 2020 where they try to put together the best possible roster, pitching, hitting, bringing up the prospects at the right time. Maybe they put it all together that year and they get in the wild card, or maybe heck, they even challenge for the division since it's a shortened season. You never know. But I don't think he sticks on if 27 goes poorly. They sell, they trade Ellie, they build for 28 and 29 and 30, where we've identified they have nice advancing prospects that could debut during those years that are doing really well at the moment. I don't think personally Francona sticks around for that. And I don't think if they have a new front office that they would want Tito to stick around for that. They might go all in with a super analytics guy that's going to possibly really adhere to what the front office does analytically and just become like a middle manager and just be a yes man for whatever matchups that they're going to throw out there, for whatever, five and dive that they need to do with some of these starting pitchers, as opposed to try to stretch them out and whatnot. I can't see that. I can see possibly him writing out his contract, not getting extended, especially if there's a new front office. I don't expect them to extend Tito Francona. But that also just points to the missteps that they've had along the way during the 3 possible years that we're going to have with Terry Francona in your front office or in your coaching staff. Like this feels like just a Charlie Brown swinging and miss at the football. Like you have, like you said, one of the best managers of all time. I thought in 2025 he raised the floor on this team, that he was going to just play players that didn't strike out, that didn't give away outs on the base paths, that would put in relievers and starters that weren't going to give away walks and basically games away, that he can trust certain guys and knows when to deploy them and whatnot. But it feels like, where is the 2025 Terry Francona gone? I feel like we got a bunch of guys that still just strike out at alarming rates. We drafted, unfortunately, guys that are doing really well, or I should say, fortunately, they're doing well so far in the small sample size. But the book on the top picks that we have in the 2026 draft is that they have high K rates. So what are we doing as a franchise? Like, I thought we were trying to model the Tampa Bay Rays, Brewers, that would be solid hitters, that would not give up outs easily, that would battle and foul off pitches and move the runner over at the appropriate times. And I don't know what happened to that team, or what happened to that philosophy, right? Like, it seems like we abandoned it. And now I know we made fun of a lot in the show that Chris Felica wanted guys to hit line drives, and we kind of did that more in 2025. But now 2026, we're just launching the ball in the outfield and just hitting home runs and having a horrible runner in scoring position batting average. I don't know. I feel like I'm ranting, and I don't want to take up all the talking points, but I don't see the same team anymore. And does that mean that in 2027, it's going to be a totally different team? It's possible, or it could be more of the same.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see it getting much better. I mean, you're really kind of relying on Hector Rodriguez to develop next season. You're relying on Dane Myers to potentially be your everyday center fielder. Blade probably going to be back. I don't know how the contract situation looks like on Tolia. I think he was just a 1-year minor league deal because he played 6 years already. So there's that. So I don't know. The future looks bleak because, I mean, outside of, I guess, really Duno, there's not a prospect that's going to be called up in the next 3 years that you're like ecstatic about. I mean, potentially Carlos Jorge, but he's really just, I'd say, a better version of 2023 Friedel with far better defense and a lot younger with potential to develop into an elite leadoff hitter. I'm not trying to knock Carlos Jorge because we're saying TJ Friedel, because 2023 Friedel was a good player. But, outside of Carlos Jorge, who's a potential next year call up, and Duno being the number 1 prospect, I mean, you're hoping Justin LeBron develops quickly. You're hoping Eric Becker develops quickly. You're hoping Steel Hall can take leaps and just be consistent and climb through the organization. Outside of those guys offensively, you're just not, there's really no one to really look for. And that's not trying to dig at any minor league players, because any of these guys can develop into something special. It's just, there's just nobody to look at. And trading away, a top 10 prospect in Sammy Sephora for Ke'Bryan Hayes And you know, I get it. Elite defender in Ke'Bryan Hayes. You need offense. You need guys that can get on base. You need guys that can drive in runs. And we have legitimately one player who's driving in runs. And that guy's a rookie. You know, like he could potentially regress, you know, and that happens. And if he regresses, you have nobody driving in runs. I mean, the Spencer Steer home runs. If you lose Stevenson in the offseason, you know, like there's just nobody. They would have to make a splash in free agency, and they would have to make some major trades with prospects nobody's really high on. So, and you would be crazy to trade Duno for anybody, I think, at this point. I just don't know. I just don't know what they're going to do.
No, there's a lot of questions now with the current state of affairs and what they're looking at. And yeah, this trade deadline, like we talked about, they didn't sell. They didn't get prospects to potentially be the next wave because you're hitting on it. The next wave is not ready yet. It's going to be a couple more years to be really impactful, which really puts a big criticism on that 2026 or 2023 class. The Ellie McLean, Noel Marte, CES. Who else am I missing in there?
Reese Hines.
Like those guys are not pulling their weight. They should be the core, and they are still. Unfortunately, the core is diminished because they've traded a bunch of them away. Abbott's good, but not elite like he was last year. And yeah, Ellie is like the only guy that really you can depend on every single day. And like we've talked about in other shows, if Ellie and Sal don't do anything, good luck, because our pitching is not as dependable as it had been in 25 and 24. Like 24, we had great pitching, but just no offense, and it ended up having a losing season. It's kind of looking that way again, is that you have to have a perfect Chase Burns start, go 7 innings, and the bullpen hold it down. We just get 1 run. And I know that's like ironically how Tito Francona wants to win games, but that is not like a sustainable thing. You can't sustain that every single game, every single week, every single month, every single year. That's too many variables in baseball. It's too random of a sport.
Yeah, it's funny that you're seeing the team win games the way he wanted to win games and losing games the way he didn't want to win games.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like the floor has dropped out. We saw that, like you said here in the graphic, May bullpen. The floor fell out way out into the basement and crashed hard in May and June. And we are trying to dig ourselves out of it. And it's cool. Like I said, I wanted a nice summer where we would be able to have some wins before we go into September call-up time and playing against the Dodgers and Braves and Cubs and Brewers a bunch. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get that fun end of the summer at this rate.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it.
No. But we did have some positive this week. We beat the White Sox in a series, but we will talk about that after this ad.
I made the switch from traditional coffee to mud water because of all that caffeine was leaving me feeling anxious. Mud water has a fraction of the caffeine, plus organic ingredients and functional mushrooms like lion's mane, reishi, chaga, and cordyceps that support immune functionality. It became a healthier part of my morning routine, and I genuinely enjoy the rich flavor. If you want to give it a try, use our exclusive link, mudwater.com/allglovesoff, and you'll get 20% off your first order.
All right. Shout out to Mudwater. That music makes me feel a little bit more calm. And going into this next topic, since we were a bit riled up at the prospect of the 2027 season. We're already talking about the 2027 season, Ricky. I guess we got to get back, be present. They did win a series this week. They beat the White Sox on Pope Hat night, by the way, which was nice to finally break the Pope curse that we got last year, right? You said, and in May when he got the Chicago Pope got appointed, we lost the series against a 100-loss team in the White Sox. But this time we made things right. We beat a playoff team, Ricky. Can you believe that? This team is so funny how we can just go from, like, we talk about this all the time. They can go from one sweep of a series against the Athletics and get their butts handed to them by the Nationals, the do nothing Nationals, and then it happens again. We beat the White Sox. We feel good. What happened? Why can't we continue to play like this, like we do against the White Sox? I guess is my ultimate question.
Yeah, I don't know. It was Lodolo's first start back on the opening of the series. Gives up a home run on the very first pitch he throws, and he did bounce back. He gave up 5 hits in 4 innings, 3 home runs, but 5 strikeouts and no walks. So it was good to see that he was at least throwing the ball in the strike zone. Just guys were crushing it. And then obviously the bullpen. No, there was no walks in that game at all, by the way. Luis May came in, 2 strikeouts in 2 innings, just been really good this month. And then Brock Burke gets the win, gets 2 strikeouts in an inning, and then Pagan comes in and shuts the door down, hits with a strikeout on Tuesday. And then, they lose Wednesday's game. Louder just didn't have it. Gave up a lot of hits. He gave up 7 hits, a home run, only walked 1 batter. And the bullpen did walk 2, but that was from Marinaccio, who has struggled since he's been with the team. But, Julian Garcia looks good, 2 hits in 2/3 of an inning, but, he can't be perfect every time you go out there. But, Sal Stewart is him. He goes 2 for 4 in the loss, has a big game in the series finale. And we can talk about that a little bit too. Takes the White Sox pitcher deep in the first inning. Next at bat, first pitch. I don't know what the pitch speed was. I'll see if I can find that. But it was, I'll find it. It was...
It's from the pitcher Davis Martin, and no-name White Sox pitcher Davis Martin. Yeah, in the 3rd inning, I want to say.
Come on, give me that.
So this is shenanigans per usual. I feel like Sal is like a guy that ends up getting a lot of this. I don't understand why. Maybe he's a little bit boisterous, celebrates a little bit, but I don't get hate for that.
I don't think it's any worse than anybody else. I think he might be more kind of tame compared to some guys. First pitch was a strike. It was overturned by ABS. It was called a ball. Second pitch, 94 miles per hour at his head, goes over the catcher, hits the backstop. And then the next pitch, 92 right to the head. And, it's not a good look, especially when you give up the home run the at-bat prior. And obviously we heard comments after the game from both sides. Tito, you could severely injure somebody that way. And then the pitcher for the White Sox saying he had a blister and hand was sweaty and it slipped. It's like, all right, back-to-back pitches, same location. Sure. You're just trying not to get suspended. And I don't know. Sal kind of has this target on him, being the National League RBI leader, I guess, and being the entire Reds team at this point. It's just, you hate to see your 22-year-old, all-star rookie having an all-time season for the Reds as a rookie take shots like this. And it's happened a few times from the Pirates. It happened with the Giants. It happened here. There's probably a couple other times I'm missing, but yeah, I mean, it's just a bunch of shenanigans, man. I can't think of any other way to say it. It's a bad look, and it's a bad way to play the game.
Yeah. I'll get to the shenanigans in a bit, because it's putting it lightly to call it shenanigans. These guys are out there trying to do a job, and I get it if there's still these weird unwritten rules and whatnot. But I'm not one that adheres to those anymore. I think the game should move past that. But I'll get into a little bit the specific of that later. The game one was the surprising thing to me. You mentioned no walks, a time where Pierce Johnson, TJ Antone, Brock Burke, Luis May, and Emilio Pagan didn't walk a guy. Call me shocked that happened. Like, I also was listening to this game on the radio, and they were kind of, they weren't giving the game away for Nick Lodolo, but they were talking about, like, this is the first time he's going out there with the new grip on the breaking ball. So it wasn't a complete surprise that he would be throwing fastballs out the gate, and that the game plan for the White Sox were to search out those fastballs, and they obviously hit it on the first pitch of the game. Luckily, it didn't end up dooming the Reds for this game, which is, I guess, a bit of a way of backhanding into this compliment for the Reds, backing into it by saying, like, hey, they stayed and they battled and kept going, even though that Nick Lodolo probably wasn't confident in his breaking ball. And you heard that on the broadcast from, I think, Chris Welsh and Tommy Thrall. So, like, shout out to Nick Krall. He actually had I would say exceeded my expectations for this week with this start and the start today. So giving up 0 runs today, and then only 4 in his starting back from rehab. That's a pretty good week for Nick Lodolo. But yeah, game 2 it felt like a getaway game type of situation where the Reds had no offense and just pooped the bed and just lost 5-0. But yeah, the last game of the series, the Reds, they come out and it looks like they're just going to hammer them, right? They're going to have an emphatic 9-1, 9-2 win against a division-leading AL Central White Sox. But they let him back in the game. The Marciano, or however he says his name, DFA him. I get it. They picked him up because they need the depth, but they could bring up some other guys. I guess it's maybe a question of the 40-man roster spot. Or what have you, but, like, I don't know, man. I think I've seen enough with him. I've seen enough of Pirates pitchers that we've tried to turn into actual, Reds relievers that we can depend on, and I don't trust that guy anymore. Not that I trust Sam Moll either, but who knows? Maybe both of them will be gone before the end of the season, if I have my way. But the thing about I guess the tell is, and I guess you said, like, he didn't throw, or he had a bad grip and it was wet and sweaty. The tell I always see with these pitchers that miss their target is where their catcher sets up most times and not. And with the White Sox catcher Caro, and also his reaction after the pitches come through are tells to me that the pitcher went out of his way to do this. This wasn't an accident or what have you, because he sets up Caro, I think, for both of those pitches on the other half of the plate, and basically is just like, okay, we're doing this, fine. And then has to, like, basically console Sal and be like, dude, no, don't. He's an idiot. You mean, like, it just felt like a whole thing that Caro went out of his way, the White Sox catcher went out of his way to make sure Sal didn't go and, stump a mud hole in that guy's backside, basically. Davis Martin or whatever. Anyway, no name guy. I don't get it either. It is Sal again, right? He was targeted by the Giants, 3 or 4 months ago. I don't get it. If you're gonna do that, fine. Take your fine, take your suspension. But, like, I don't know. I thought the unwritten rules is that you don't throw at their head anymore. You throw at their, like, backside, or their thigh, right? Like how the Reds retaliated against Willie Adames in the Giants series, right? They just plunked them there. It's like, isn't that the unwritten rule? Like, why are we throwing at guys' heads still? We're trying to get a product out here that hopefully will be around in 2027 that is competing against football and basketball and all the other major sports in this country. And we're going to go back to an ugly form of baseball where I think Reds on SI guy, our guy, Zach Presnell, says it's kind of really cowardly to do this type of stuff when pitchers don't get to hit anymore. So they don't get the opportunity to, like, throw at that guy. So it's like all's fair is equal, right? Like, if he's able to get thrown at, then fine, have at it. But now pitchers are the only ones that are allowed to do this type of stuff. I don't know. I think I don't know did they even hand out the fines yet and whatnot? I can't even remember. But, like,
I don't think there's anything yet.
Give that guy 15, 20, 25 games. I don't care. Get him out of here.
I mean, eventually one of those balls is going to find his hand. and it's going to put him out for multiple weeks. And then the Reds have no offense, and that's literally zero offense. You're going to rely on Ellie carrying you when he's your leadoff guy, So like it's just a bad look. That part of the game is just it's unacceptable to me. Like I think there's a place for it. Like obviously as like it's very rare. I don't think it should be like once a season kind of thing. But for it to happen to him multiple times when he's not even doing anything crazy, like he's not bat flipping 30 yards down the first baseline or whatever line their dugout's on. He's not showing up the pitcher by any means. He's just admiring a ball he hit 490 feet, and he's not even doing anything outrageous. It's just, yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. Well, we'll hopefully learn the fate of no-name Davis Martin sooner than later. And it hurts his own team if he gets suspended. If he's actually a valuable part of this organization who's trying to win the AL Central, maybe you should think about that first, right? Like the White Sox were terrible the last 3 seasons. Like you're going to put your season on the line, making one pitch by his head, but then a second one, please. Like,
yeah,
you know what? It's just get it out of the game is all I could say. And then it possibly could ruin a Rookie of the Year campaign by our Salbert Stewholes, by our Sal Stewart. Like I don't understand necessarily like the unwritten rules of like eye for an eye, but like you're right, it could hit him in the hand, and we're getting in this like Gino Suarez territory where all of a sudden he's getting hit in the hand like every 3 or 4 weeks at a time and could knock him out. And this is their guy's livelihood, like the stuff that they do with their hands, whether throwing, catching, or hitting. It's a very important skill set to have healthy, strong hands. So yeah, I don't know. It's nonsense and needs to be get it out of the game as best as they can. Get it out of there. They got out of hockey. Hockey's getting rid of like a bunch of fighting and goonish behavior. Get the goons out of baseball. That's all I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a time for it, but you can't just do it because your feelings hurt over a home run. And that's all I got. It's a bad look. It's a bad part of the game, and obviously you can't take away hit by pitches. This is part of the game.
No.
But intentionally throwing at someone's head. If you're going to intentionally throw at somebody, throw at their ribs or something. Throw at their hip.
Yeah.
Throw at their foot. Something. Throw at their shin guard. Throw at their elbow guard. Not their face.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Nonsense. But yeah, Rookie of the Year snub ? Are we in a territory, Ricky, really, that we're still having to talk about this? I feel like we have to include it every single month so that we can get in the algorithm. We can get into the internets out there that JJ Weatherholt is good, not great. I mean, like let's slow down. Like, I get it. WAR is this new analytical thing that we're gonna point to that makes this player better than that player. But like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the one thing, if we have to maybe somehow win this conversation, is if the Reds end up being ahead of the Cardinals in the standings, then JJ Weatherholt should not win the Rookie of the Year because he's not providing enough WAR. He's not providing enough wins above replacement. He's behind Sal Stewart in the standings. Simple as, right? Like, I don't know. Like, what is your takeaway at all this? I feel like there's just a bunch of back and forth between Cardinals fans and Reds fans arguing about this award. And I don't know. I also think you put it best. This is definitely 2008 Giovanni Soto versus Joey Votto. And I think we have the future Hall of Famer in our category where JJ Weatherholt might burn out like Giovanni Soto. But where do you land on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's not just an offensive award. There has to be defense factored into. It's just WAR does not help first baseman. But if you're going to be a first baseman in that territory, in that category, you have to have the offensive numbers to back it up. And he has elite corner infield offensive production. I have some baseball reference splits pulled up for both Weatherholt and Sal because I feel like these two are the front runners. There's other guys you can probably make a case for, but these are the two that the majority of people talk about for the National League. So this split is for game outcome. So this is for Reds wins and Reds losses. These are Sal's stats. When the Reds win, Sal's hitting 304 with a 390 on base with a 608 slug. That's an OPS of 998. That is 19 home runs, 69 RBIs. He's got 9 doubles in that. But you're seeing him being the primary guy driving in the runs when the Reds win. That kind of proves our point that he is the Reds offense, right? When the Reds lose, and that's, what, 63 games now, 64 games now. I forget the total record right now, but when they lose, it's because he's not producing, right? He's hitting 223, 286 on base, 364 slug. That's a 640 or 651 OPS. That is over a 350 point drop off basically in OPS, which means he is the only guy that could drive in runs for this team. Flipping over to Weatherholt, his splits in wins is 277, 407, 488. It's an 895 OPS. That's 12 home runs, 7 stolen bases, and he's walking nearly as many times as he's striking out. 40 walks, 41 strikeouts. When the Cardinals lose, he's hitting 208, 288, 271 with a 559 OPS. Walking far less and striking out at the same rate. So he's got 42 strikeouts, 21 walks in losses with just 4 home runs. And then when you go to high leverage stats, Weatherholt's high leverage stats are like a high leverage situation: 290 batting average, 349 on base, 408 slug. And for Sal, they're just eye catching, right? Like these are like, perennial all-star, going to get a tremendous contract type stats. 333 batting average, 392 on base, 619 slug. That's a 1.011 OPS, and that is 7 home runs, and he's striking out almost equal to walks with 11 strikeouts, 10 walks. So he is driving in runs, 40 RBIs in high leverage situations. Just unbelievable stuff, right? That's next level production. And for him being a first baseman in a rookie of the year race, with a stat that doesn't value first baseman in any way with WAR, you have to produce offensively. And that's why we make the case with the offense with Sal, is because he is, I would categorize him as maybe an average first baseman defensively. You could probably make an argument either way, slightly below average or slightly above average. It's kind of how you feel, honestly. But he's right around league average defensively as a first baseman. So he's not really costing you games defensively. It's just defense just isn't valued at first base. So that's why we make the argument with the offensive side for Sal. And, I'm going to hate the fact that Sal is not going to win this award, but I will be severely disappointed if he doesn't win this award, just because he's putting up all-time great rookie offensive numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up there with Pete Alonso. It's up there with Aaron Judge, minus the home runs, because Judge had an incredible home run tear. But I mean, it's crazy. It's what Sal Stewart is doing offensively. If the Reds were winning games, a lot of games, I mean, if he was putting up the numbers he's putting up when they win, and they win more, I mean, looking at MVP, like that's MVP type numbers I mean, the batting average isn't what you expect from an MVP, but his batting average when they wins over 300. So you would assume that would translate into more hitting while they win, and he probably hits closer to 300 over the course of a season when they win more games. So you're probably looking at like a 280 batting average if they had 75 wins instead of 59. So I mean that's an MVP case, and to have that credibility and to lose a Rookie of the Year award to a guy that I think you can make, he's an average offensive player for Major League Baseball, not just rookies. He's a good offensive talent. I'm not trying to throw any shade towards JJ Weatherholt. It's just Sal Stewart's offense is another level that is kind of disgraceful that he's not being talked about as much.
Yeah. I think I'm at the point where if he finishes second, I'm okay, because there's no way. A lot of people have been ranking him at like 4th or 5th in their voting. I'm like, what are we talking about here? And some other guys, obviously, that are having decent seasons. Carson Benj, I think, is one of them, and a guy from Colorado. But I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. So this is fine if he's second, if he is the Giovanni Soto, Joey Votto situation. I am totally fine with Sal Stewart having a Hall of Fame career while, Giovanni Soto burnt out like he did in 2009 and so forth. And if this is going to be JJ Weatherholt's best season ever, good for him, because I don't know exactly what his ceiling is. If he's just a Matt McLain, good defensive player, good for him. The Cardinals got a good guy they locked up for many years that was going to hit 240 and maybe hit 15 home runs every single year. That if you can live with that, St. Louis Cardinals Nation, good for you. But I don't think I think you would rather, if you were talking about which player you're going to build around, I think if the Cardinals fans were like completely honest, they would pick Sal over JJ Weatherholt for his career to build around, because you can build around Sal and his power and his, ability to hit in the clutch and provide offense. Because you can run prevent, you know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? Is this going to be a Key Brian Hayes situation in St. Louis with JJ Weatherholt, where they're like, but his defense, and he's hitting 130? I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, here's some more stats to back up Sal's offensive ability. With runners in scoring position, 315 average, 621 slug, 11 home runs, 73 RBIs. With a runner on third, 462 average, 500 on base, an 1154 slug or OPS. Or no, 1154 slug with runners on third base. With runners on first with less than 2 outs, 300 average. Runner on third, less than 2 outs, 500 average. Runner on third, 2 outs, 381 average. I mean, this is just off the charts production from a guy that is in his first season in Major League Baseball, and really kind of burst onto the scene last year because he was always really good at getting on base in the minor leagues, but the offensive average stuff never really kind of popped up until probably late 2024. Because I remember when we had our show, one of our first shows, we were talking about the minor leagues. We talked about Sal Stewart, and I had mentioned that he could be a call-up this year, and he was in Double-A, and it happened because he just went on an absolute tear. Like, did I believe it? Probably not. I just wanted to throw a name out there, but it worked. And when you look at his splits, it's incredible. I mean, runner on third with 2 outs, he's got 13 RBIs with a 381 average and an 800 slug. Like, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable what he's doing offensively. And, it's unfortunate that WAR is the primary stat that people look at. And, I'm not saying that his defense is great at first base and that he's being targeted just because he plays first base. But even if he was a Gold Glove caliber first baseman, he's probably at like a 2.3 WAR and not 1.4.
Yeah. WAR can be funny in terms of B WAR, F WAR, whatever it is. I guess the only other thing other than his defense that JJ Weatherholt has over Sal is that he got his extension. So I guess I say this all to say, Reds organization, extend Sal Stewart, please, because otherwise, I don't know. I don't want to do this whole Ellie thing where we're going to have these reports that he got an offer and then immediately, rejects it because they undersell his extension or they don't give him as much money as they probably should. Who knows what this organization is going to do, but at the very least they could give him what he's owed.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it might be an off-season thing. I know they said that they mentioned there's not going to be any more extensions this season. So maybe they wait until the off-season and they can just give him what he's owed and then kind of grandfather him into a potential new CBA and see what that beholds. But the Reds have gotten kind of lucky with some first base talent over the years. And, obviously Joey Votto was a fixture for this franchise for a very long time. And you could say he's probably if not the greatest first baseman in Reds history, he's second best first baseman in Reds history. And, Sal Stewart could very well, if he continues this stretch, could be the best first baseman in Reds history.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I think we'll leave
big emphasis on could.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's early on. The results are good so far. There's no reason to doubt him at this point. The kid has gone from AA to the majors in one calendar year, so who knows?
Yeah, and age is on his side. Votto came up at like what, 25?
24,
and Sal just turns 23, I believe, in December. Mm-hmm. So he's got 2 years on Joey. So I mean, and that's Joey Votto is probably my favorite baseball player of all time, even if I wasn't a Reds fan, just to put that out there.
Yeah, for sure. High expectations for the kid that I think is not putting too much pressure on him because I think he wants to be that type of player. But when it's all said and done, he's got, I think, expectations that might be bigger than ours, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite quotes from the offseason was when he was on an interview with, I think it's Joe Danneman of Fox 19. He said, he wants the kind of career that fans wear his jerseys long after he's retired. And you don't get that by being a flash in the pan type player. You get that from longevity. You get that from production that he's providing this year. And if he gives you 80% of this production the rest of his career, I mean, that's easily Reds Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Not putting too many expectations on the kid, but easily a Reds Hall of Fame if he keeps up this trajectory. And there's room to grow.
Yeah, definitely. A guy that has been producing, surprisingly, he had kind of a lot of expectations because this guy could throw 100 miles an hour out of the bullpen, is our Red Hot Red of the Week. A guy that we were going back and forth in the pre-show. Like, have we ever given anybody a Red Hot Red of the Week that's in the bullpen? And I guess TJ Antone was the answer to the trivia question. But this week is a guy that we were doubting. I think I even called him out last show saying, like, the Chase Petty situation in the bullpen, get rid of Maxwell and May. But no, don't get rid of Maxwell and May anymore. I take that back. Luis May is our Red Hot Red of the Week, who had a fantastic week out of the bullpen, which is great by his standards because 0 walks. Luis May going a whole week without walking a guy and seems to have figured out his off-speed pitches. I don't know, man. Has he turned a corner, Ricky?
I mean, he's looked really good. I mean, Reds Daily for Greg Kuffner made the case for Pitching Ninja to showcase his sinker he threw in I think it was game 1 of the White Sox. That thing had incredible bite to it, where it broke, 3/4 of the plate off the plate to the right-handed hitter feet, and it was just a thing of beauty. And if he has turned a corner, we have an elite reliever on our hands with a guy who throws 101 at his peak with a really good slider, and he has a third pitch in that sinker. So, I mean, you kind of can see the comparisons to Alexis Diaz in a way, just based off of how he has been. He throws harder than Diaz did, but you saw a guy who, if he wasn't throwing the slider, the fastball wasn't in the zone. And if guys weren't chasing the slider, they were crushing the fastball once he threw a strike. And now you're seeing Luis May, at least over the course of his last 5 games or 6 games, since the month flipped to August, has just looked like a different pitcher when he got called back up. I think it was August 5th. And he's looked like an elite reliever, and your hope is that this is who he can be more consistently. I mean, everybody's going to have their bad games, and the Reds could have their next closer in him. If he can gain the confidence to pitch the ninth and pitch like this, I don't think there's any doubt that he could do that. And, obviously you're relying on other pieces of the bullpen around him to be better. And like I said earlier in the show, there's 3 relievers that I'm keeping going in the next year, and that's Luis May, Julian Garcia, and we'll see about TJ Antone if he's healthy and can build back the innings in his arm. But those are 3 solid relievers that I feel pretty good about. And I would not have said that about Luis May 2 months ago or even a month ago.
Yeah. This last couple weeks are going to be job auditions for guys like May. Guys like, I think Julian Garcia, you're right, probably has earned it based on his body of work this year. But, probably job auditions for Sam Moll. Job auditions for that Pirates reliever that I don't even want to say his name anymore because I don't want him on this team. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting the last couple of weeks. We've obviously pronounced this team dead, so now we got to figure out which of these guys are going to survive the roster for 2027 and beyond. So it seems like Luis May is making a pretty decent case, and he did also impress us this week, which is nice because we actually won a series this week and had some good performances. It wasn't like this was the only guys we had left to pick was relievers, but it was nice to see Luis May kind of turn the corner, like you said. Hopefully, be able to be the guy that he was promised to be with this electric arm, but was known to not have much control over his pitches. So, yeah, shout out Luis May this week. It was good stuff.
Yeah, and he threw 2 innings in Tuesday's win. So it wasn't just like he came in and just pitched his 1/3 of an inning and got a strikeout, or pitched an inning and got a strikeout, or didn't walk anybody. He pitched 2 innings in relief of Lodolo, who gave up 4 runs, and the bullpen as a whole kept them scoreless, but it really was started by Luis May. If he had unraveled, that game is out of hand and they don't win that game. So huge outing from him to go 2 innings and get without, I think it was 2 perfect innings, just looking elite. And it gets you hopeful, because the bullpen has struggled in the last 3 games or so as a whole, with a few guys struggling over the last, 14 games or whatever. But you get excited for little things like this. It gives you some hope.
Yeah, for sure. If he can start figuring it out, yeah, that definitely makes the bullpen that much better this year and next year as well. But, really, relief pitching can be so funny because we had these kind of same type of feelings about Connor Phillips last year, right? Oh, he figured it out. He started really getting command over his breaking pitches. I'm not saying that's Luis May's future. I'm just saying, man, it would be nice to have some more consistent relief pitching in this team. Hopefully Luis May is one of those guys. But yeah, anything else about him?
No, just shout out Luis May for shutting us all up because we were getting loud. And
yeah,
He looked really good, elite.
Yeah, hopefully he keeps that up. That'd be good to see a reliable arm coming out of the pen again for this team. Is it's not, we don't have a lot of those this year, but yeah, looking forward. We got a weird week. Weird week. They have a game that was rescheduled to this week from a series before with the Cardinals. So now we have 5 Cardinals games in 4 days at Great American Ballpark. And then we get to go on the West Coast. Well, I guess not the West Coast, but at least, further away, 2 time zones away, over there where Mike Ballantyne lives in Arizona, to play against the Diamondbacks for 3 games, who are, I think they're currently in the playoff position, the last wild card, or them in Philadelphia, one of them two. Just 8 games in 7 days, Ricky. What the heck? What are we doing? This has got to be the biggest test of the season. Obviously, if they go 8-0, we're going to have a really good show on Sunday. But what do you see this week in these 2 series?
Yeah, it's going to be a gauntlet. St. Louis, obviously, is St. Louis. They've been a little bit better. They're 7-3 in their last 10, which could mean they're due for a cold streak. So they've won 2 in a row. They had that rookie come up, Joshua Baez, had an all-time performance going. I think when he go 3 for 4 with 3 home runs in his major league debut. Just why can't we get that? But obviously you got to see what he can do the rest of his career. He's a rookie. Same with JJ Weatherholt. Same with Sal Stewart. But could be in for a cooling. A doubleheader. We're probably going to see a transaction on Monday. Probably going to have to call up a pitcher. I don't know who they bring up at this point. I don't think there's anybody at AAA I'm like excited. Probably Chase Petty, I would assume. And he probably either starts game 2, because I think Rhett Lauder is scheduled for game 1. They don't have a starter listed for game 2 yet. So I'm going to assume Chase Petty's probably the starter for that one. The Cardinals don't have any starters announced for this series. So I don't know who we're going to face. I don't even know who their pitchers are, to be fair. I don't follow the team enough. But it's going to be tough. Doubleheaders suck, especially for a 4-game series. Geez. It's going to be a gauntlet. Just you might even see 2 pitchers get caught up, honestly, and one might just be a move, and one might be the taxi squad guy. And I don't know, man. It's going to be a tough game, tough series. I'm at a loss just because I don't even know who they don't even. I don't even think they have a starter announced for Tuesday's game.
Yeah, no, I don't know what they're doing over there.
Or Abbott scheduled Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday is going to be Chase Burns, potentially.
Yeah.
And then obviously
Singer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm afraid of losing the bragging rights of the Rookie of the Year stuff in this series, even though it's not Weatherholt versus our guy Sal Stew, but obviously the narratives will possibly be shifted, maybe in the right direction towards our guy, if we end up winning 3 out of the 5 games, right? That's the crazy thing about this, is that this could potentially, and I'm not going to get my hopes up because I think this team is not as good as we think they are, or there should be, but there's a potential shift in the NL Central rankings if we go out there and win 4 out of 5 games. Not saying that's going to happen, but you're talking about possibly being in 3rd place after this series. That's what we're talking about here. That's kind of on the line. Do the Reds have enough offense to win 4 out of 5 games? I don't think so. And that's where I kind of temper my expectations for this series specifically. So.
Yeah, and then they go on the road on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to Arizona. And then kind of jumping ahead, they play Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They don't have an off day until the following Thursday. So I think they play like 9 straight games or something like that, just with the doubleheader included in that.
11 straight games.
11 with So it's going to be one of the hardest stretches of games for September all season. And, not having Hunter Green hurts. So we're going to be relying on, I would assume, Chase Petty, hopefully the rest of the season, just to see what he's got. He hasn't been that bad. I mean, he's looked far better than he did last year. And I think, potentially could get Spencer Steer back in the coming weeks. Tony Santion's going to throw one more rehab start, and then he's going to come up. I think Brandon Williamson, did they say he might have one more start?
Mm-hmm.
And he could be back for the Arizona series potentially.
Potentially.
If not the Arizona series, it might just be the San Francisco series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be a rough stretch.
Yeah, it could be. Or it could be really good. I don't know. I guess we got to leave some room for positivity because, these teams are not world beaters. It's not like the Cardinals are, 10 games above 500. Arizona is pretty good, but the Giants stink and they're a loser organization. So I got more hope winning that series, I guess, than maybe going to Arizona and beating them there. That'll be tough because I think it could be Lodolo, Lauder, and Abbott. So losing 2 out of 3 there isn't out of the realm of possibility. So I don't know. I just want to beat the Cardinals because I do not like them.
Totally agree. And as I've learned on social media, I think Cardinals Twitter might be just as bad, if not worse, than Pirates Twitter.
Oof, that's tough because Pirates are bigger losers than the Cardinals. At least the Cardinals.
Is true. At least the Cardinals have a recent history of winning.
Very recent, right? Didn't they win in 13 or something like that? So that's within all of our lifetimes, aside from our kids. So, but anyway, anything else about this upcoming gauntlet of a week?
No, just if we get swept in both series, it might be a 5-minute show on Sunday.
Yeah, we might just post a thank you fans, just like Greg did.
We might just pop on, play taps, and leave. That might be what it is.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
If we go 2-6, it might be playing taps and saying thank you fans.
Yeah.
And we might just do a banana phone where we just go on Twitter, tell people who follow us, you want to join the show, talk and vent for a little bit? Now's your time.
Yeah, I'm open to that. But hopefully we don't have to do that. Hopefully it's the other way around. We're 6-2. We could open the phone lines.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, could go a lot of different ways. What a way to be a Reds fan is that you never know what's going to happen until it happens. And then you're like, I should have seen that happening. But I don't know. It's just the existence that we are in this space. But anything going on for you? I think I might have some more pieces coming out on Reds on SI.
You're gonna. What do you got coming in the pipe?
I'm gonna talk about stinking the rehab starts from Tony, Big Tone, and Brandon Williamson coming up. So hopefully that will be something coming out tomorrow or something like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I might try to find some Charlie Goldsmith quotes or something and write about that, and might talk a little bit about the farm system because that seems about all we have. And we have a new top 30 prospect rankings coming out in the coming days. We have our ticket giveaway coming up. Be sure to join that. We'll have all the information posted on our social medias. Links are in the description on that. And then also, we are a podcast. We are on Apple. We are on Spotify. We are on iHeart. If you could, just leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us out in the algorithm. Shout out to Frost Buddy. Shout out to Mudwater. Those links will be in the description too. With Mudwater, you do get a discount on your first order. It's 20% off your first order. So good stuff. If you're a fan of coffee and you want a healthier alternative to coffee, Mudwater is a really good choice for that. And Frost Buddy is just one of my favorite products. I ordered a mystery box, and I got a rare item in my mystery box. I got one of 500 ever made.
Oh,
it is a engraved. I am officially a forever buddy.
Oh, wow. Leveling up. I see. Nice.
That's going on the old cabinet behind me here.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome.
But Frost Buddy, you know, they have a plethora of options to choose from. You can get a Universal Buddy, which is your can koozie, can cooler. They have backpacks for kids going back to school. They've got tumblers. They've got to go. I forget what the term is for them. They call them to go buddies, but they call them something.
Yeah.
You know, if you're you get your McDonald's coffee on the way to work, it keeps your coffee hot all day long. If you get an iced coffee, it keeps ice in it all day long. And they have some future products coming out too. You know, they have a backpack cooler they're working on. They've got, you know, stuff like that. And if you're on TikTok, they do exclusive drops on TikTok. And if you order through us and you like Frost Buddy, you get automatically enrolled into their VIP program. You get notified when they have exclusive drops, especially exclusively on the TikTok shop. So, you know, and you get future discounts as well. So when you order through us, yeah, you might not get the initial discount for that. We don't get a discount either. It's, you know, you can get future discounts and exclusive stuff that not many people are going to have.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Yeah. Check it out. Red Hot, frostbuddy.com/Red Hot Reds down there, the URL and the QR code as well. So really appreciate them. They've been a great sponsor for us. And and might have some news coming up shortly in the next couple days or so. So be on the lookout of that. Be on the lookout for the top 30 that will drop. I think we'll probably try to get out there Wednesday or something like that, or maybe sooner. We'll see. But yeah, until then, go Reds.
Go Reds.